She don't order tonight. Do I have a motion that we go into executive session?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session in accordance with Idaho Code Section 74206(1)B. The board may elect to hold an executive session to consider the evaluation of dismissal and disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent, or public school student.
All right, do I have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Start with you, Hillary, in favor.
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Kirsty?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So thank you for coming. We will be back. This session to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance today. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Do I have a motion that we approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, do I need to wait for Kirsty to get back here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
Aye.
Michael, and I for me. All right, superintendent's report.
Chairman Nixon and members of the board, this is going to be really short. It's just, I just wanted to remind the board that this is our strategic plan that we've been working on. We've been sharing it since 2022. And we still have our same pillars. I think that should be, still our mission, our vision. And the pillars that we're working through, we will update the goals this year in all of the 4 different categories. And tonight, Assistant Superintendent Graves is going to just share a little bit on an update from the
Organizational strength.
organizational strength. Ugh, my gosh, from organizational strength, because that is about the retention of teachers and stuff. So he's going to give you an update on that. So I'm going to move right to that one as part of the continuous improvement plan and the annual hiring update. So it just ties in part of our strategic plan. So go ahead, Mr. Robert, you can.
Will I go through?
Yeah. Yeah. There we go.
You can go ahead and click one more. Hard to believe this is Chair Nixon, trustees. This is the 3rd time I presented this to you guys. It does compare those 3 years. This year, next to the number, we hired 52 certified employees from the end of 23-24 school year to start 24-25 school year. That's a 13.8% retention. However, just to note, we did have 14 less positions this year, certified positions, than we did the following year. Remember, the following year we cut 10 as well. So that 13.8 is a little deceiving. If we would have still had the 400 positions that we started 22-23 with, the percentage would have been 19%. But we're kind of that maintain as far as our retention goes. Of the employees that we hired, 14 need an alternative route. Again, that's deceiving. That's a teacher that maybe is an elementary teacher that is going to teach special ed. So that all route is just adding an endorsement. 13 of our hires were first year, literally that first year teaching. That was 1997. 16 were 1 to 4 years, 5 to 10 was 9, and 14 were 11 or more years. 5 positions we did not fill with a teacher. We filled with a contract now. And almost all of those OT, PT, and SLP. So speech and language pathologist, occupational therapist, and physical therapist. Just really hard to get those people to work at a school rate as opposed to the rate they can make on the contract. Next slide tells you where people went. For the 3rd straight year, 35% of the people that left us went to another district in the state of Idaho. Kind of alarming. I guess it's been alarming for a while, but the next biggest one was just left education in general. There were teachers, and now they're not. Transferred in district to a new position. We forced this a little bit when we cut 14 positions. We don't have intervention teachers anymore, for instance. So those teachers went either into the classroom or left us. But this just kind of breaks it down for you. Any questions?
No, I always like to look at this to see why people are leaving so that we can try to retain the good teachers that we have. I think it's an important part of our strategic plan. So
The geography really hurts us when you've got 3 of the 4 biggest districts.
it does
are our
hurt
neighbors.
us. It does hurt us. Sometimes I feel like we're the farm team for the other districts. Don't like that, but I feel that way sometimes. So I appreciate you putting that together. Does anybody have any questions or comments? All right, thank you very much. A report on the community levy meeting update. Trustee Bruce, Trustee Thornton, and Assistant Superintendent Ray. By the way, I'm not getting my agenda to go into links for me.
Okay.
So when you get a chance, I know
After
that
I'm on
this
this
is
side of
your
the
thing.
table,
Yeah.
I'll come over to that
And that
side.
will be great. I know
Yeah.
that would work out great.
Yeah, sorry about that. I mean,
You want-
Trustee
you
Thornton,
want
Trustee
something?
Bruce, I can, whatever you prefer. Yeah. Sure. Just wanted to give everybody an update on the work that we've been doing for our next levy. Coming up, we have 56 days until Election Day, so we have a lot of work to do. We had our first committee meeting on August 27th. Had a kind of a small group turnout for that, but a very, I would say, vocal group, passionate group that's excited about the work that we're doing and trying to help get information out there about our upcoming levy. Our next meeting is on the 17th of September. At that one, I'll let you guys talk about that a little bit and what you want to share, but just the focus of what we're trying to kind of just hone in on for this levy election that's coming up. We want to just make sure that we're being super clear about what's on the levy, what's not on the levy, addressing any questions or concerns that people may have about that. We want to be, as always, like you heard, I think a meeting ago, Kuna has always been one of the most transparent districts that anybody has ever worked with. Holly Troxel said that when they were here last time, and we want to continue that. We want to always be as transparent as we possibly can. And really for this, we just want to make sure we build that personal connection and having our parent advisory teams from the different schools reaching out to parents from those schools and just building that personal connection and helping to answer and address any questions that people may have about what's on the levy here in a very short 56 days. Trustees, would you care to add anything?
I think you did a great job.
Oh,
That'd be great. Yeah, I'm excited for next week on Tuesday. We're gonna kind of break down into some of these smaller committees to kind of focus on where can we make phone calls, who to make phone calls to, where can we set up information tables, stuff like that to get the word out so that people know about the levy. And that was a reason that we heard a lot about the last levies that nobody knew. And so we're trying to make sure that people know about it and what's going on. So we have a lot of help from Valley View. Is it Valley View?
Yep.
Valley View School District passed their levy and their bond, and so we've tapped into that resource to ask them what they've done. And so we're using some of their same ideas to try and make that work. So,
Yeah.
and we need volunteers to help us with this.
And I've heard Trustee Lowe with their marketing has come up with some great ideas, so thank you, appreciate that. Well, I have a question though. Can people still join the group?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the community is aware that that's an important thing for
Open
us.
meeting, we're gonna be at Swan Falls on the 17th at 6 PM. So anybody that wants to come and hear more information, whether you're pro, con, any of it, we just wanna make sure that we're being transparent, communicating, and just building those personal connections.
Tell me when that is again.
September 17th, so next Tuesday, a week from today, at Swan Falls High School at 6 PM.
Yeah, we just have to be careful about having a quorum there as far as the
Right.
board members. But yeah, community members, we really need this levy to go, so whatever we can do, thank you. Thank you for your time, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's hope we're gonna hear good information now about kindergarten.
Yes. Chairman Nixon and trustees, at your last regular board meeting, there was a discussion about all-day kindergarten versus going back to part-time kindergarten. So I wanted to give you some data and some historical context. If you go to this slide for the next one. This was a discussion from years back, In 2017-18 was the year that the board considered whether or not we would go to full-time kindergarten for all students in the district. So prior to that, we looked at some data from the 2 years before that. And so I want to share some of that with you so that you can get that historical context of why the decision was made and look at that data, and then we'll look at our current data as well. But just to refresh your memories if you aren't sure of this, there were different options for parents. Some of the schools had a morning AM and a PM, and some had an A day and a B day schedule. And then we had our tuition-based option for parents if they paid for the other half. So it was quite complicated how to structure our schedules for that. And then we also, at the time, this is when the state also was beginning their early literacy funds for intervention and for reading. So at that time, we decided to use our early literacy funds to help the students who performed in the bottom 25% on our IRI, or Idaho Reading Indicator. And we provided the other half of kindergarten for them as an intervention. So that's kind of historical context. Now, data-wise, you'll see on here, here's the A-day cohorts, the B-day, AM, PM. Kindergarten, again, is that one where we paid through our literacy funds for the other half of the day as an intervention. And then the all-day, everyday, which was tuition-based that parents chose to pay for. One thing that pops out, just looking at the demographic data, is that our all-day, everyday tuition group was the lowest, or the highest socioeconomic. They had the fewest kids that are socioeconomically disadvantaged, the fewest kids with IEPs, and no English learners in those groups. The rest of our groups had higher rates in all those areas. And then our kindergarten, they had the highest of all of those. And again, that's partly why they were targeted, because their scores were lower at the beginning of the year. Then this shows you, on the IRI back then, you were given a 1, 2, or a 3, and 3 was the proficiency level. So our data just shows the averages of each of those groups, and you can see that represented on the graph here. The blue was the beginning of the year, the red was the end of the year, and the gold is the growth. Now you'll see this both in this year, and then I'll show you next year's in a minute, but our all-day everyday tuition group came in with the highest scores, which wasn't surprising when you look at the demographics. And they also ended with the highest scores. But you'll see that they didn't show as much growth because they came in so high. The other groups, A-day, B-day, AM, PM, it's kind of mixed, but our kindergarten group came in with the lowest scores, grew the most, which really showed that the all-day, everyday kindergarten made a big impact for those kids that we were specifically targeting. So if you go to the next slide for me, this is the same format, but it's the next year's data. So very similar demographics, similar results. They came in the highest, came in the lowest, but the most growth, and then a mix with A, B. So it was that data that we used at that time, if you go to the next slide, to help us decide as a district, and the board then approved this, whether or not we wanted to offer full-day kindergarten for all kiddos. A small portion of our parents, or of our students, were actually in the all-day everyday based on tuition. And I already pointed out that group had the highest socioeconomic, fewest IEPs, and that. The kindergarten economic groups, they had the lowest and the most IEPs, the most English learners, but they also made the most growth. So we felt, as a district, and the board agreed and approved this, that going to an all-day, everyday kindergarten format would help those kids that weren't getting it through tuition-based programs. So the board approved it. We moved in 2018-19 was the first year of all-day, everyday kindergarten. I just summarized that. So now, in 2017-18, our IRI test changed. The state adopted iStation as our provider. And then now the scores, they've reversed them. Instead of wanting a 3, you want to be a tier 1. So the kids that are proficient were tier 1, kids in tier 2 were slightly below, and tier 3 were significantly below. During 1920, we don't have any data because that was the year of the COVID closure, so we didn't do the testing at the end of the year. This data, it'll look a little different. It won't have an average, like it won't be a 2 something. It'll show you what percentage of the kids were tier 1, what percentage were tier 2, and so forth. And it's for all kindergarten. So I didn't break it out by demographics because all kindergartners had all-day kindergarten now. So, excuse me, this data, 2017-18, was that last year where they had lots of different options, and it was half-day kindergarten for most kids. And we had 45% of our kids that were proficient by the end of kindergarten. The next year, when we implemented full-day kindergarten for all kids, our proficiency rate went up to 67%. So in that first year, we had a 22% increase of the amount of students who were proficient by the end of kindergarten. Of course, then we had COVID, then we had a little bit of a COVID dip, but still 63%. And then this is what excites me the most. The last 3 years, we've averaged 70% of our kindergartners who are on grade level in reading by the end of kindergarten. So from that baseline year, the last year of half-day kindergarten, 45%, to an average of 70%, we've increased by 25% the amount of kids who are proficient in reading. You rarely see that kind of a massive shift all at once. So that change from part-time kindergarten to full-time kindergarten made a huge impact on the learning of our kids. So I wanted to share that data with you so that you have that, both the historical context of why we made the change and then the current data that shows how it's impacted our learners. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to.
No, I appreciate that because I know that was a question that came up at our last board meeting, and I appreciate what you've shown, how important all-day kindergarten is, and we know that that's on the levy, so it's an important piece for us. So are there any questions?
He's just gonna stay, he's gonna
Yes.
stand up there, because we do have another pretty cool.
Jeez.
I'll be shorter on the next one, I promise.
Yeah.
Oh, I read it, yeah. Oh, this is good.
Do you want to go to the slide for me, Brian? Do you want to introduce anything, or?
Well, this is Kuna Middle School, and they have worked so incredibly hard in the last 3 years to improve their scores and just do a lot of really hard work. And so we did really want to celebrate something pretty cool, and I'm gonna let Kevin share what that is.
So we have here tonight with us Vicki Lang. She's one of our, I'm not supposed to have favorites, I'm sure, but she's probably my favorite partner of curriculum companies. So she's with Curriculum Associates.
I also live here in Kuna.
She does live here in
I live
Kuna.
here. We're taxpayers as well.
She takes really good care of us. Curriculum Associates provides our iReady math curriculum. And every year they look for and create success stories, which are a one-page story of schools that have been implementing successfully their programs. And then they share those success stories with other schools and districts around this, not just the state, but the country, to help motivate them and help them to replicate the success. So we're really excited because they have asked this year if they could take KMS, Kuna Middle School, and use their story as one of the success stories to share with other districts. So it's quite an honor. We're really pleased and tickled, and I know Mrs. Manuel and her staff worked really hard to make that happen. I won't go into a lot of detail with this data because you've already had to listen to me once, but this is our 6th, 7th, and 8th math. This is just Kuna Middle School students. This was the beginning of the year of proficiency. The green 31% were proficient by the end of the year 48. 7th grade was 15 to 34, 8th grade 17 to 31. And if you remember last year, we showed you the data where they started, and we had a lot of growth to make. We still have more growth to make, but they're making it. And so it was really exciting to see that. But one of the reasons they were chosen, though, if you'll go to the next slide, and this is a little more difficult to explain, but I'll do my best, and Vicki can correct me if I get it wrong. This shows you the annual typical growth. Wherever a kid starts on the first diagnostic test, they've collected the data that shows how much you expect them to grow in a year. So all of our students, we look at how they grow compared to that normal average range, right? And then a stretch growth goal goes much beyond that. If they reach a stretch growth goal in a couple of years, they should have closed whatever gap or exceeded the grade level. So it pushes them beyond a year's growth. In all 3 of our grade levels, we had about half of our students that met the typical growth. But if you look, especially at 8th grade, the median percent of the growth goal, or the typical growth goal, was 92%. So what that means is, even though half of the students completely made the goal, almost all of them were really close to making it. So all of our students showed amazing growth in their math this year. And you see that especially in 8th grade, but also the other grades. It's pretty remarkable the growth they had. So that's one of the reasons why they're being selected for this. The stretch growth goal, you can see, anywhere from a fourth to not quite a third of our kids met that stretch growth goal, which means if they're behind or below, they'll catch up in a couple of years. Or if they're on grade level, they'll be above within a couple of years if they keep making that stretch growth goal. So this data is a little bit harder to understand, but it's amazing to see not only the achievement growth that they've made, but how much they're growing within those ranges. So very well-deserved recognition, and so we wanted to share that with you tonight. We're glad that you could join us. So any questions?
No, thank you for joining us, and good job for Kuna Middle School. Let's give them a hand. I know that they've been working hard. Is that the reason for the cake out there? So, yeah, celebrate. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, and now to the next part. Patron comment. So, it does say in our new policy that the chairman may limit the number of speakers to ensure the board has time to complete its work. This is a hard thing to do for me as chairman because I want to hear everybody's comments. But I do need to let you know that I know I received, I don't know how you guys are, but I've received over 27 emails from people in this community, and I want to say thank you, because we're here to represent you, and getting that feedback from you allows us to represent you in the best way that we can. So that being said, some of these I know have written us, some of these I know have talked to some of the board members. I would like to, because of the time, limit it to about 5 people with 3 minutes. And the reason for that is we would be here all night, as much as I love you guys. So one of the things is if I call someone and you're up after them and I call you and you feel that person has said what you were gonna say, can you just say ditto or pass? I mean, I do want to call you, but I do want to limit it to that for reasons of time. So that being said, when you're called, I need you to give your name and your address, and I think that's basically it. So Darren Solomon, is he here? All right, would you like to start us off? You will have 3 minutes. I want you to realize that we don't usually make a comment.
Do you gong or?
Well, actually, right, I think we have a little, don't we have a, no more timer, do it?
Yeah, there's a time.
Okay, there it is, right there.
Oh, right there?
There you go, there you go. Well, yeah, we don't want to start yet, don't start yet.
Go back.
Yeah, we'll go back. Yeah, and so then after you've said your thing, if I call the next person, they say, hey, ditto, that'd be great, just so that we know. We want to hear it, but you guys have done an outstanding job in letting us know your feelings. So go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, Darren Solomon, 8368 South Updale Avenue in the new Paloma Range subdivision here. Moved into the district last year, originally from Idaho, lived in South Carolina for a while, came back. My son's a football player, freshman team at Kuna High. And I have a daughter who's, what's she, 11 now, 6th grader. She's somewhere between Taylor Swift and Bruce Lee. I don't know. We can see what that ends up being. Athletics, obviously. Everybody that went to school had some kind of connection to athletics, right? I'm a retired law enforcement officer, and every single one of the good agents that I worked with contributed, or said that athletics contributed to who they were in the line of duty. Some of my military friends and everything, they learned more on the football field, the wrestling mat, the baseball field, the swim team, the volleyball court, the basketball court than they did in algebra. All those things are important, but you learn more about life in athletics than you do in the classroom. The classroom is there to teach you the facts of life, and the court and the field and the mat and the swimming pool or whatever is there to teach you about the realities of life, how to lose. You learn more from losing than you do from your successes. We all know that. So those types of programs, they need to be there. I understand you're having levy problems. I don't understand why. Apparently, there's going to be a meeting next week. I will be there, and I will volunteer to help in any way that I can to make sure that people can get the word out, and that the levies get voted for. But if the levies aren't, what are the other options? I guess my questions are, I don't know how it works in Idaho. I know that we have the lottery, and that's supposedly supposed to be for the perpetual building fund or whatever that is, but can we figure out, maybe, not just for this district, for every district in Idaho, can you have a levy loan? If your levy fails, can they borrow against that? Can we talk to our legislators? Can we talk to them and see, is there some way we can kind of tap that to make sure that, you know, if it's pay to play, not every kid's gonna play. And I grew up in Burley, Idaho. If I had to pay even $100 to play football, to play baseball, I wasn't playing. And I would have missed out on all those experiences. The best teachers in the world are teammates and coaches. Teammates and coaches, by far. My best mentors were always my coaches and my teammates. Again, you learn to live and die on the field, and you know, classroom's important too. But throughout life, I think I can contribute and attribute my successes in my professional life, my family life, and my social life to athletics. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jaden Jackson, would you like to speak or say ditto?
Yes.
Okay. State your name and your address.
Jaden Jackson, 11427 West Kuna Drive. So I am an 8th grader at KMS. I do wrestling and volleyball. I have, these sports have helped me so much more than anything else. Being surrounded by the people and being motivated to keep my grades up just so I can do the thing that I love has been amazing. And if prices get raised, it's going to cut off a lot of those opportunities for people. People aren't going to want to put in the amount of money to play for 6 weeks, and that's just middle school. Personally, I know people too who, if prices are raised, they won't be able to do sports at all because the school sports prices are going to be the same, if not more, than club prices. If prices are raised, not as many people will want to either, because parents aren't going to be able to pay for that, especially counting equipment, and just not being able to get rides there if we're having to pay for busing too, because not everyone can afford that. Thank you for having me up here and listening.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna slaughter this last name. Thomas Rittenauer?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So my address 4321 Pinnacle. I'm actually in Caldwell, but I'm on staff here as a coach. That's why I'm here.
Okay.
So I don't want to talk about money. You know, I manage a huge budget. I understand all about that. But I also understand, just real quick, that the amount of money you guys are talking about here is a pennies in a huge budget that you have. I don't see the gain here. But for me, I think that your job as trustees, as administration is, you have to give every child the best opportunity that they have to succeed in life. And if you want to look at percentages, when you have a team of 10 girls, let's just say, and 3 of those girls are struggling on that team with school, they won't go to school if they didn't have sports. They will not succeed beyond high school if they don't have athletics in what they're doing. And that's 30%. Now I realize we're not talking the whole school, but for me, if I can save 30% of kids and help them go be successful in life beyond, it's very important. I mean, I feel like I've been in the coaching for over 30 years, and people talk about mentorship. That is the best way you can ever mentor any kids, and I don't care what sport it is, what extracurricular activity it is. Every one of those kids, one way or another, is going to remember their mentor. Remember what they taught them, the strengths that they taught them, how to succeed. And if you go to a pay-to-play at the amount you guys are talking, you're going to lose those kids. And by doing that, you are doing an injustice to those kids. You know, like I say, I am proud. I've had probably in my career of coaching, I'm going to say over 100 kids that would not have went to school after they got out of high school. Probably some of them would have wound up in prison. And that didn't happen. And the reason that did not happen is because those athletics saved them. We're able to keep them on track, going in a direction. So I'm here tonight just to plead with you guys to please, please reconsider, figure out a different way, take baby steps, because when you start something,
that starts more or less in the middle of a year, kind of, sorta. That's not fair to anybody. It's not fair to your patrons, it's not fair to those kids. So you guys need to really try and figure out a different avenue here if you can. And I appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry Sisis? Do you want to ditto or do you want to speak?
I want to speak.
Okay, sure.
So,
Go ahead.
not
Donna.
only, do I have to go there?
I'm going to say no because I understand you sometimes just need to be comfortable, but you do need to state your name and your address.
Oh, Terry Sias, 589 South Red Oak Avenue. So, we're talking about athletes. People have only talked about the athletes, but from the time my son's been a freshman to now he is a senior, my daughter is a freshman this year, they both play 2 sports and they both play 2 club sports. It's a lot. I know. I don't push them. They love it. They love it. I foster it. And for me personally, if I'm going to be playing club sports fees at high school versus club sports fees at club, I'm going to go play at a club. You get double, triple the games. You get seen by probably quadruple the amount of coaches if you want to go play on to the next level, because I can't afford both of those fees versus the other fees. And I've seen personally from the time he was a freshman, how far this school has come in athletics, in kids that are not in athletics, participating in athletics as far as the CAS program that they have at Kuna now is huge. If you go look at our student sections at all of our games, they've never been as big as they are today. I mean, I think the football game last week was the biggest we've ever had. And those are kids that don't play sports, but they're a part of it. They feel like a community, they feel welcome, they feel like they belong. They feel like, and if you start charging those fees, kids are gonna leave the district, because I will leave the district. I will leave the district to be able to play high school sports and a club. I just talked to, my daughter just had a volleyball game. I just talked to a Mountain View mom. They pay $110 and $40 ASB fee, that's it. I can afford that. So my kid, if I go somewhere else, I can afford for my kid to play high school sport and a club sport. But I can't afford for my kid to play club prices in high school and a club sport. So something to think about. It doesn't just affect the athletes, it affects the entire school. And these kids now, I've never seen Kuna so connected as students as it is today.
Thank you. Okay, Natalie Jangula, do you want to speak or do you want
Yeah,
to?
I'll be really fast.
Okay,
It's Natalie Jangula and 545 West Treehouse Way.
thank you.
I will actually come up. I have like this whole thing prepared, but I want to reiterate what these people have all said. But also, it's not just about us being athletes and us having accountability and responsibility and the life skills that it takes to become successful adults. We get a lot of that in the classroom, but as an athlete myself, the people who have played the biggest role in my life were my coaches. And having a personal business and a personal need to help these youth. I have a business for the elementary students who come and they do after-school sports with us. And I can see the influence on some of these kids' lives. Already, within 2 weeks, you can see them feeling a part of a family. And we coach club basketball, and I had an 8th grade boy whose mom was gone for weeks. And he didn't have his family, and we were his family. And so it's not only learning these skills, it's having that sense of unity. Also, I have 8 kids. I have 5 kids in the district, 3 kids who are gone out of the district now. And I was a single mom for a long time, and there is no way I could afford to pay these fees. And I know that there are a lot of people in our community who feel the same way, and we've all talked about that, but at the same time, we need to come together. There has been a division that has been created. It's either education or it's athletics. It has to be one or the other, and that is not true. We have to come together as a community. I agree, we need levies, we need funding, we need help. And I think that if we can team up together and be our own sports team, per se, then we can have a way bigger impact on our community as a whole unit. So I think it's just up to us to stop this division and come together, because our kids need it in the classrooms and on the fields. And that's all.
Thank you. I know that's our fifth one, but I'm gonna, because time, they haven't all taken 3 minutes, my decision. John Strickland, are you a ditto, or would you like to?
I'm not a ditto.
Okay.
So I totally agree with what everybody has said here. And for me, I was a single dad. I couldn't afford the fees, okay? But I was able to reach out to family, and through everybody helping us, we were able to do that. And my kids became great athletes. But it also boosted their ego a ton. And most of you guys know my kids. Right now, one's a student body president. A few years ago, one was a senior class president. And these kids got their confidence through sports, okay? Now, I'm not here to lecture anybody, but I know there's a way to keep these fees down, okay? My thought is if we can somehow come up with a scholarship type program for these kids through fundraising, boosters, whatever it might be, to offset these things, because I know everybody can afford a tiny bit. Some people can't afford anything. I get that, okay? Some people can afford the whole thing, but I had 4 kids in sports at the same time. 2 in high school, 2 in junior high. That's a tough one. And they all played 2 or 3 sports. So that's over $1,000 for me when I was a single dad in 1 year, okay? But if somebody can afford to pay $20, $50 and have a scholarship program that can offset that, would we be able to, as boosters, write a check to the school to offset those fees so that our kids can participate in the sports, which obviously helps to raise their grades, okay? It's a proven fact. Kids are in sports, have something to look forward to, their confidence just builds, and they're able to get better grades in school. But I would think that hopefully as a school board, we can come up with an idea of how to do this, working with the boosters to do something like that, working with some of the businesses in the community to help that. I know a lot of businesses in the community, they're not the brick and mortar right here, but there are other business people in the community that would be more than happy to help our kids. And these are people that donate thousands and thousands of dollars to C of I, to Boise State, to whatever other programs are out there, okay? And I hope we can come together with something of that nature if, for some reason, this passes, okay? I'm hoping it doesn't personally, because I do have kids in sports. But if there's a way that we can work together to offset that for the kids who can't afford these fees, that's all I'd say.
Thank you. I would like to hear from Heather Hemmert. I believe she's in the drawn room, just because she's going to talk on the teacher's emergency levy, and that's one that we don't have. So I'd like to hear what she has to say. While they're getting her, Toby Halverson, would you like to speak? Or
Yes.
would you like to do ditto?
Real quick.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, because we have.
You want to go first? You want to go?
No, go for it.
Okay. Just real quick. A lot of these guys hit on several things that are absolutely spot on. I'm going to hit a little different. I am speaking on behalf of a few people that are afraid to come up here because they don't want to get attacked. They're afraid of being berated. Maybe some retaliation on some of the spots and stuff they think about. I'm not going to go through the sports and the importance. I will point out one thing. All these athletes are required to have the grades to participate. That is one thing that without the sports, you lose. So another point there on that. I want to talk about the levy. You two, I heard you on the video. No sports with the levy. That's crazy. Why? That's what we do. That's how it works. You pay for the transportation, you pay for the stipends, you pay for things, the general fund with the levy. That's the other part of it, all of us. These guys are looking for help with the levy. We're all whining and bitching about this. Stand up and help them, and I'll be the first one. I'm gonna stand here and throw spokes like crazy, man. But I'll help you. Let me know, okay? Second, all 5 of you, emergency levy today. Pass the damn thing. Get going. Let's get it started. Talk to you guys about the committee. Yeah, I mean, and let's all, I mean, as a community, and I know there's people sitting at the home listening, they wanted to hear this fat guy talk to everybody, but, I mean, damn it. We know, a buddy of mine lives over there, I ain't passing no damn levy. It's ignorant. We've got kids in this program, in this community. We've got to help you guys, and we owe it to our kids and ourselves to help these guys get this stuff run through. It's not rocket science, it's not hard. To your point, the budget, Tom, I mean, it's numbers, it's money. We are not the first community to be here, okay? Let's see. One other thing, I got 50 seconds. Title IX. If this passes, be careful. I'm just gonna tell you guys are smart. I know we haven't gotten very far down the road with this, but there's some figures going around, and I know a couple of attorneys. One of them happens to live fairly close to me, and the Supreme Court, I think, would find a lot of interest in the raise and fees in this deal. So just keep, I mean, you guys are smart. I heard you mention Holly Troxel, that friend of mine, John Hall. Anyway, just, you know what's up, okay? Don't get us all in trouble, is what I'm telling you. And I'm looking at you two. And I ask you two, please, for the women and the kids and the people in this community, sometimes watching these meetings, I mean, you act like an interpreter for her, for the other 3 sometimes. It is painful. And I mean that constructively, okay? But all of you, all 5 of you, are our school board.
We need to have you
Okay,
stop. Thank
go.
you very much. I appreciate
I'm
your
gonna go
time.
back with my wife, guys.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
All right. You sure can. Heather, do you want to state your name and your address,
Yes,
please?
I am Heather Hemmert. I live at 2808 West Crenshaw Street here in Kuna. I'm a little bit nervous. Just bear with me. I'm grateful for the opportunity to address you. Thank you so much for inviting me to come in, even though we had already gone over the 5. My words are not as eloquent, so I'm going to read off what I wrote. I hope what I do say will sit in your minds as you make upcoming hard decisions. I'm one of your teachers. I teach 2nd grade at Crimson Point, the Wildcats. I've been here for 4 years, 3 years being a full-time teacher. I subbed before. I love my job. I love the people I work with. I love most of all the children and the families in this district. I feel very blessed to be here. Although I am the Kuna Education Association representative for my building, I know I don't speak for everyone. This is my opinions and my thoughts. My comments are my own today. My main purpose of being here is to share just a small portion of what it's like to be a teacher in your district, as I have experienced it and as I've had other conversations with teachers. I hope that you will consider teacher perspectives while you make upcoming difficult decisions. Ultimately, the decisions you make in this room are left to the teachers and staff to implement for you. We are the ones with our boots on the ground. We are the lowest of the ladder rungs, but we're the foundation of this district. So knowing what it's like to be in our boots should be a vital part of being a school board member. In the staff retention and hiring report, one of the first lines said, we want KSD to be the place where people choose to work and thrive. From conversations I've had from my own lived experiences, the overall feel has been of survival, not of thriving. We are surviving while trying our best to not let that show to the children and families in our care. The district's stated vision reads, every day in every classroom, students will receive high quality instruction and exhibit personal growth. A massive reason why it often feels like we are in survival mode is due to the overcrowded classrooms. How can we provide high quality instruction when logistically our class sizes are bursting and we don't have extra paid time? How can every child receive high quality instruction when our instruction materials are taken away in the name of budget cuts? How can teachers remain in our top form when our own teachers, our instructional coaches, are reduced and their roles minimized?
I acknowledge that I don't understand everything that it takes to run a district or make hard decisions when the budget doesn't reflect the needs. However, I do know what it's like to be expected to pump out great scores from our over-tested students while running on empty. The proposed budget cuts, if this next levy does not pass, include getting rid of many teacher positions. This will do the opposite of what our children need. It will increase our class sizes. They need face time with their teacher, not to be packed in like sardines with even bigger class sizes. In closing, I want to emphasize how many quality teachers we have in our district. We chose this career. We know we chose hard. We can do hard. But we cannot and should not be expected to handle the irresponsible working conditions laid before us, nor should students be subjected to overworked, underappreciated teachers who cannot logistically provide.
Thank you, appreciate it. I just want to say thank you to the people who took time to testify. I'm sorry that we don't have time for everybody. I appreciate the ones that are in that overflow room that I heard. Thank you so much, and continue to reach out to each of us as board members with your thoughts and what you want to see us do. I appreciate that. I wish we had more time, but we got a big schedule tonight. So you're welcome to stay. If you need to go, you can also. All right, that being said, thank you again, and okay. I need an action, a motion that we accept the consent agenda as written, or as is. Need approval?
I motion that we accept the consent agenda as is.
Second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion? All right. We'll start with you, Kirsty.
Aye.
Michael? JD?
Aye.
Hillary? And I say aye. All right, so that's done. All right, monthly update on our HB 521 facilities bill, Assistant Superintendent Graves.
Yeah. Chairman Nixon, trustees, I know most people are here for new business, so I will go as quickly as you want for the two unfinished. This is like a dear diary for one of the pieces of what I do. And this is House Bill 521. Amber, remember Amber is the V in LKV. She's completed her part of the MAPS facility condition assessment. I finished the KSD part of the assessment. Our next steps is to meet together with Amber to see if we agree with her parts and our parts. Then I come to the board in October with our final draft. If or when you approve that, then we submit to the State Department, and then hopefully in November I come back and tell you how much money we got from House Bill
Yay.
521. Remember our prediction was 22, but maybe we're thinking it's actually going to be a little bit more.
That'd be awesome.
So the other side of that was the critical projects. So since our last meeting, the week of August 19th, we answered every question that LKB had back from us from after our tour that we went on with them. Remember we did a tour of all the HVAC projects and the fire safety projects. Week of August 26th, LKB sent opinion of probable cost by Musgrove Engineering. Good news, we predicted the fire alarm system upgrades for Kuna High, Hubbard, Ross, Indian Creek would be right in that $1 million range, and that's what Musgrove Engineering is saying that the project is as well. And again, that's without sprinklers. Remember, we didn't have to do sprinklers in Indian Creek, and Ross, if we did, it would be way more than $1 million. So that prediction was almost spot on. HVAC projects, we estimated Kuna High, Ross, Indian Creek at 2.6 million. We were not good at predicting that. Right now, the number I'm giving you is substantially higher. It was just a little over $7 million is what they saw. However, that's with all alternatives. So for example, Kuna High has been built in different phases. Remember, we added on that K-PAC, we added on the additions at the end of the social studies hallway, at the end of the science hallway. Each time those are added on, the HVAC units came with it. So this has all HVAC in Kuna High School. So with those alternates there, those units aren't as old, so we hope that it would all fall in that 2.6. I guess that's terrible shopping by me. You can tell I did not do the shopping.
Yeah, how's the high school doing right now without their?
Tomorrow, everything is, it should be a nice cool day, so.
Okay, I'm just curious.
They rotate.
I know they rotate,
Yes,
so
they
I
do.
just, so I.
No, it's still there, so our next step we would then meet with Bennington, and Bennington gets us to where we need to be. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't spend $7 million on all the projects. We just can't use the waterfall money and the projected $2 million that we're gonna get. Once the 20+
Once that
million
comes in.
yeah, it just stops the other projects that are nearly critical.
And just so the community knows that part of that critical maintenance that we're gonna be getting from the state, they took our lottery money to put into that.
Yeah, I know.
And I wanna make sure that that our community
Absolutely.
knows that, so that we have to say goodbye to
Yeah.
that. But hopefully we can use this money then to make the 7 million so that we can.
Correct, yeah.
That's what I wanna hear, okay, good.
So we meet again with Bennington, with LKB, and then we discuss construction phase of work, overall budget, and then potential alternates. So then we can come back to you and say, hey, we can start the bid process. But that will be my next update in October. And then I will be ready for you guys to approve the draft of the maps that the state is requiring us to get our facilities money. And you are 100% correct, the state repackaged our lottery money in the facilities money, so it wasn't new money, it was just.
No, it's a hard thing for the community, sometimes it's a hard thing for me to understand, all the little crooks and nannies that they do in there, that type of thing, but, yeah.
So I'll stand right here because the next.
It seems like you're the next one, you're gonna talk about our bus purchase update.
Yeah, last board meeting, you guys allowed us to spend that money on the buses. So just a quick, in 1 month, this is what we did. Kuna School District purchased 2 conventional regular buses. This is the example of one of those. We obviously, you can see who we bought it from. These buses were valued, dealer retail selling price in the market was anywhere between $57,000 and $61,000. They're both 2018 Internationals. These buses, because they're 2018, they're still within the 12-year purchase, so we will actually earn depreciation on them from the money that we spent. This company did not go to, because you guys allowed us to do this, we didn't have to wait for them to go to auction. So we worked privately with Cascade. We did a little bit just like we do with a normal car purchase. We kind of went back and forth. We purchased both buses at $25,000 each. Instead of what they were asking and what the retail value. By purchasing these 2 buses, they go directly into our fleet. They're gonna be replacing 2 buses that are much older. The second thing we did is we purchased 2 conventional special ed buses. If you can see way back in the back, they have the lift for wheelchairs. These buses at dealer retail, selling price on the market is between $60,000 and $65,000. Again, instead of doing the purchase through the auction where we could have got them lower or we could not have purchased them at all, or the auction may have happened prior to this meeting, I would have had to get, permission to go and play in the auction.
Right.
We were able to purchase both those buses at $32,000 each, straight from the seller. These 2 conventional special ed buses, again, will go right into our fleet. We'll take 1 bus that's not a special ed bus that we're using, and it will go back into our regular fleet, and then it'll push the special ed bus back to a backup bus. So if you click on the next one. So because you guys allowed us to kind of go through this a little bit quicker, we were able to purchase these 4 buses at $114,000. At the low end, we saved the district $120,000 by doing this.
Good job.
Our new 2 sped buses, we did purchase a sped bus right before I came on. That was one of the last things that David did. We still haven't got that bus. It takes them that long to build. We're hoping it comes in October. That new bus costs us $152,000. So these 4 buses we will be able to earn depreciation on for the next 4 to 5 years, so that money will go back into another purchase. This allows us, people said not to use spare. This allows us to have 3 spare sped buses, special ed buses, for any field trip that's going on. A spare bus means it's just not a routed bus. It doesn't mean we're not using it. And then because all of our buses are a little bit older, we do have some temporary breakdowns. The 2 conventional buses allow us to have 7 to 8, and those are our trip buses now. So that way we can run trips and we can run routes. We don't have to use the charter buses as much, and that saves us a lot of money. So these buses all allow us, now we can also start to begin the surplus and scrap our very old buses, and then that money also goes into depreciation to purchase new buses. So, and when we say new,
They're not new.
They're not new. They're new to us.
New to us.
New to us.
Long story, thank you. Thank you for trusting our transportation department to do this, and hopefully you can see that we did a good job with the money you guys allowed us to spend.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments for Assistant Superintendent Graves and what she's presented tonight? Okay, thank you. All right, we're on to new business discussion and action items. And we are an athletic fee and ASB cards for the 2024-25 school year. Superintendent Beckedahl and Director Wolf and CFO Feather. All three of you guys.
So if you want to click on the, just this background, there was an approved of a 5% increase in all non-curricular athletic fees for middle and high school activities. There was an approved proposal of 42.85% increase for middle and high school athletic fees for the remainder of the year. And we discussed creating a new per activity fee. But before I go any further, one of the things that at the last board meeting, we were asked to research what it would cost for per athlete to have to pay for everything. And so on Friday, I sent all of you that information. It took a lot of time. It took a lot of days for all of us to work on that besides everything else. But in that spreadsheet that you got on Friday, it showed by sport how many athletes. I'll give you the example that I shared with you is that in football, there's 166 kids playing, and one column showed you what the fundraisers and what that dollar amount was. Then it showed you the general fund of what coaching stipends and transportation paid. And then the other column was the ASB card and also the athletic fee. And that total then, so do you want to explain, so that total then was, after all of that was said and done?
Yeah, so what we did is that we had all of our head coaches send me in what it cost to run their program. And that, since athletics is 110% self-sufficient, again, we do not get any state money. And when I say state, I'm not meaning the Idaho Department of Education. I mean the Idaho Activities Athletics Association. We don't receive money from the state, we don't receive money from the district, and we don't receive money from the Southern Idaho Conference. So our athletic teams, they run themselves. And that is the same model used in Stata, that's the same model used in Caldwell, Nampa, and Valley, okay?
So that's where we come up with the word self-sufficient?
Yes.
Okay.
Self-sufficient. So, we had a column for all of our 17 programs. Excuse me, we went 19 because we included athletic training and strength and conditioning, so, which is a very big component. The next column, what CFO Feather came up with was how much last year the district paid for transportation and stipends. And that came from the $100 fee that families paid for their child. And then, and then we took that number of what the district helped with. We took the total number of participants, divided that number to the total number divided by the participant number, and that's how we came up with what would be the proposed fee per sport. And it's all over the place. Boys basketball and girls basketball weren't even same. And that, as you know, Title IX issue. Title IX is something we do not want to be involved with because our neighboring district has been involved with the OCR since 2012 and is still involved with the OCR. Okay.
Is that the one, Dr. Joki, that I did some research on that?
So he went after fees because you can't charge for co-curricular.
Okay.
And inquire.
Okay, so when you're talking about what you're talking about, can you explain that a little bit more?
So our neighboring districts, 13 years ago, the Office of Civil Rights conducted a survey on the biggest school districts in Washington, Oregon, Montana, Nevada, Wyoming, and Utah.
Okay.
Obviously, West Ada was the biggest school district, and they were found to be in compliance with Title IX, and which created district-sponsored athletic programs, not state-sponsored, but district-sponsored. So girls rugby, district-sponsored, girls lacrosse, district-sponsored, and coaches cannot cut except seniors. So at one point, in one school, a girls' soccer team had 4 soccer teams. And that's after tryouts. And then you only have 10 days between the first start of practice until your first game. And so those coaches with all the extra teams didn't have uniforms, didn't have games, didn't have practice pennies, balls, cones. So it's a lot.
So now it becomes a Title IX type issue, is what you're
Yes.
saying. Got it. Thank you.
So when the research that you received showed that what it would cost per student per sport. And you saw that it was very different per sport. And it can't be, for one thing. So, I mean, and it was pretty expensive, and that was just like if a football player was playing or did wrestling and did baseball, it would be, to their point, extremely expensive.
Yeah.
For one kid. So that was just the research that we got for you, so you could have that information. But tonight, what we want to share with you, and we have a proposal, I think, as well, is that you had asked, are the proposed fees by the board in August. The next step was to advertise the increase for 2 weeks and hold a public hearing at the October school board meeting. But tonight, you'll see that the current fee is $105, and for high school, $52.20 for middle school. Proposed fee is to go up to $150 and $75. And if you want to go to the next slide, is that if you want to do a different proposal, and we are going to suggest a different proposal, and if you want to go back one, is that you leave everything at the current fee, because we can take care of that in our budget the way it is for the rest of this year. So we are going to just offer that as a proposal to you as you have this discussion tonight.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to thank you, all of you, for all the time that you've spent on this. It has been a lot of time, and I realize that. So I have a question for you. Luke, if we were to raise those fees, 105 to 150, 52.50 to 75, and I consider you an expert at what you do, and by the way, thank you for being our athletic director. How hard will that be for those that are doing winter sports to pay a different fee than the fall sports? I don't think personally that is fair.
It's a huge climb.
Okay.
Because you have to take also into consideration families with multiple kids playing multiple sports. You can have a family with a girls basketball player, also a wrestler. And also, again, I'm going to lean back on Title IX. If those fees are increased, a girls basketball player this winter would be paying more than a boys soccer player this past fall.
Right. And the other thing, I did some research into Title IX, and I found out that Title IX is not only gender, it's socioeconomic also. And right now, the West Ada School District, because they charged kindergarten for part of their session, are being, I guess, sued for a word, because the people who couldn't afford kindergarten went to Title IX and said, this is not right, you cannot, my kids should be able to go to kindergarten all the time, they shouldn't be charged anything extra. I don't know what the cost is, I heard like $30,000, whatever. We can't afford that. So I'm looking at this not only as a gender issue, but as a socioeconomic issue for the kids. Realizing that most of the people in our community are not like the people in Eagle. They mostly have 2 parents working to provide this, and I think that's an important thing to realize.
Well, the other thing is, you know, with ADA attendance, we want kids to be in school. We get funded for ADA, not enrollment. And so athletes come to school.
Right.
They want to play.
Right.
And that's important. And the higher our percentage of attendance, the more money we receive from the state. So we want to do everything we can to get kids involved in whether it's any extracurricular or activities or clubs. It's important, it matters.
Well, and I know that I've read all 27 or more of those letters. Huge amount of kids, and I knew this statistically, are in school, not for academics, for athletics. And that's what, to me, we're a public school. That's what public school is about, is to give all of the people in our community a chance to shine and be something.
So
and I think it's important.
You have a decision to make, but if you want to, we're just saying that our proposal would be to keep it at 105 and 50, not to raise it anymore. You can go.
I personally like that idea. I think it's, oh, do you have something to say?
I make a motion that we approve the current fees and keep it at that.
I'm gonna second that. Is there any discussion?
I feel like there's been enough, I think we have some questions to answer for the public about the way that we handle athletics, and I don't disagree necessarily with any of what you're saying, but I do have some questions from patrons that I feel like would be important to be answered, that I think that probably Luke can help us with. Because I feel like we have something to pay for, and we are constantly asking and acting like we have no money. And so being able to, now we have money for this because it's budgeted, and I think that's great, it's part of the budget. I agree with the idea that raising it middle of the year does seem hasty and unfair. I think that that's legitimate. I have questions from people like about, what do we do for unpaid fees? Like, and what do we do for uniforms and helmets that are not returned? And they say they're not supposed to be. Are we using the funds as wisely as we can? Is what the questions I'm getting from people as well. So, I mean, when our uniforms and helmets are stolen or given away by a previous coach, there's been lots of stories about that. What do we do for that?
So obviously, let's go helmets first.
Yeah.
Right? For those, I know there's some people in public who have kids doing football, like right now, Coach Smith didn't even give out game jerseys on day one until the kids were in the locker room getting ready to go because of the system. This is an internal process system with helmets and uniforms being returned. A lot of it's handled different ways. I've seen it where after the very last game of the year, helmets off, shoulder pads off, jerseys are separated into a pile, thrown into bags, and gone. Coaches take them, they wash everything, and it's taken care of. Last year we talked about, when I was at Mountain View, if a kid didn't turn in any equipment, we fined them and we held out their diploma. And that's a process that I know Mr. Beamer and Mr. Reno and I, we briefly discussed at the end of last year. So there are those internal processes. There's another process where I have seen at senior nights, like at banquets, coaches will let seniors buy their game jersey as a piece of memorabilia. And then those jerseys are replaced by the program and the head coach. So there is processes in place for that.
And so, for example, we were told, my son plays football, we were told by the coach that over 30 helmets were not returned at the end of last year, and uniforms alike. And so were there fees collected? Were there fines? Did they hold their diploma? Are those things that are followed through on?
Yes, they are.
And
I only had to replace 20 helmets this year.
Okay, so 20 instead.
But those were because they were not reconditioned. They were cycled out. We couldn't use them anymore.
So the Coach Bo is incorrect in
some of our players last year had their own personal helmets.
Okay, so helmets were not taken without permission last year?
In a perfect world,
Yeah.
no. But of course, one or two are gonna slip through the cracks.
Okay,
And
so
that-
not a lot of helmets, I guess.
No.
Okay, another question I've received from parents that want to know about how we're utilizing the funds are about the unpaid fees. Like, what happens if someone doesn't pay a fee? And I think you've told me about that, but if you could
Yeah,
let
so we have a
everyone know.
running spreadsheet of who's paid the fee and whatnot, and if their fees aren't paid, we come to a point after discussions with them and the parents, we withhold their jersey until fees are paid. But the big thing is, here's the caveat, if they can't pay them, they gotta come talk to me, because I've already almost tripled the Kids Up scholarship this year, and that comes out of my funds,
Right.
that I have to fundraise for.
Right, so that's what I was kind of getting at, is that you do have a scholarship fund for people that haven't been paid, and you've utilized that
Yeah,
a lot actually this year.
And on the KHS website, there's now a logo with a QR code, because a lot of families have reached out to me asking, can we help other kids pay their fees? I'm like, yeah, and they're like, what's the process? And I said, well, you can come into the bookkeeper, like, why work, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, we'll just get something we can put on our website. So if you go to the KHS website, click on athletics, there's the scholarship logo, you click on the QR code, and it takes you right to RevTrak.
Okay, and something else I have heard of with parents, they're talking about how it doesn't really cost $105 in our district to play a sport. It actually costs, you know, like, they've got fees to enter competitions, they've got, you know, specific uniforms they have to buy and things like that. And a lot of people in their emails to me and to the others, and I don't know specifically what emails we all got, but they're talking about how they're like, well, I paid $350 for my child to play soccer. I paid $1,200 for my child to be in dance. And so I guess I'm kind of wondering, like, that's what parents are talking about, so what's that about?
So there's no apples to apples in athletics.
Right.
I'm a dance dad, and I can tell you how much I pay for dance. It's a lot.
And so how does that work out with?
Because you have shoes, you have choreography, and choreographers are flown in from out of state. Like, my daughter's choreographer is from Hollywood, okay? And you have to pay for a certain amount of trips, costumes. It's a lot. And each sport is different. And I'll use an example. Football is the one that's most commonly used. When we run a spirit pack, we ask our kids if we wanted to, if Coach Smith wanted to, you need to buy a practice jersey, practice shorts, game socks, a girdle, that's it. After that, if you want the polo, the hoodie, you know, the backpack, that's extra. So all of our programs, only one of our programs, their kids buy their jerseys, and that's cross country and track, so 2. That's it.
Right. Yeah, so I guess one thing that and I'm not necessarily advocating for this, I want to be clear, but I think that what in the past, like some people have talked about, and I know Kirsty has brought it up, about a third fee. And I think that what I understand it, and I'm not speaking for her, is that it would be a fee that people would know how to plan for those types of things. Like if you decide to sign up for dance, you think that it's $105 with a $42 ASB fee, but really it ends up being $1,200. You know what I mean? So I guess if there's a way that people could be informed about the fees prior to, because it's not $105 is what I think everyone should know.
But it's not 110 in West Ada either.
Right. So when everybody's talking about how it's so much cheaper to play sports here, it's because some of the required parts after the current 105 fee we just don't buy them, right? We recondition helmets, nobody's required to buy, we don't have 3 helmets and 3 types of football uniforms or things like that. We utilize older equipment and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to be more upfront about what those additional costs are going to be for a sport. And I think that that's what I assumed the third fee was about, because it's not $105 to play a sport. So I think people think it's $105. We're talking about raising a fee to $150, but none of this deals in reality of what a fee really is to play a sport in our district. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I guess, how do we address that?
Well, all of our head coaches and all their individual open season meetings, they express to families what it is to play for Lady Caveman basketball or men's soccer at Kuna High. Yes, the 110 and the ASB fee is that, but if they're required to buy game socks or a practice shirt, that is echoed in all those meetings. I have all those notes.
Okay, and then I guess I'd like to know and some questions I got are, what do the ASB fees and this $105 go to? What specifically are they used for in our district?
So right now, currently, the fees go towards middle school transportation and stipends, coaching stipends.
Correct. Offset.
Yep.
To offset that, and then we're about am I right from the data that it's about $300,000 that we don't collect from anyone that is budgeted within the.
So we only had time to collect data on Kuna High School, but $300,000, that's the estimated expense of coaches' stipends and transportation. It has its own account, so all the fees that are collected, athletic fee and ASB, will be put towards that account to offset So with the fees collected, that amount will shrink,
not
not all the way? Oh, sorry, what did I say?
Not ASB.
Not ASB, just
Athletic
athletic
fees,
fees.
sorry. It will shrink. It will not gonna, it's not gonna be zero. And we all know that. In order for it to be zero, we go back to that spreadsheet that I'm assuming is floating around, but it will cover some of it. And the rest will be paid out of the discretionary funds, as we always do.
And it's
ASB.
transportation to like state tournaments and long distance tournaments, the district. will
Outside
pay
of
for.
Treasure Valley,
Yeah.
ASB goes into the ASB account at the high school, which has to be used for kids. Does that make sense?
It does, it's just not what was reflected on the spreadsheet that I feel like, and from my memory, and it could be, I just am not, I think it was just,
Maybe we'll double check the
subtracted.
notes, okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I think it was subtracted from the total fee, both the $42 and the $150 was subtracted from the total fee. But, so the $42, just for clarity, where does that go?
It goes into the ASB account, and that is an account that I help a lot of programs that don't raise a lot. I don't have a gate. Like track doesn't charge, track can charge gates if it's a quad.
Okay.
But cross country, no gate, golf, no gate, tennis,
Right.
no gate. Cheer and dance, no gate. So, and like I said, it has to be used to help kids. I can't use ASB money and buy softball coaches gear, because that's not for kids. But for kids, that's a huge umbrella. And uniforms are for kids, new equipment are for kids, you know?
And can fundraising, like booster clubs, can that money be used to pay for coaches' stipends?
No.
No, okay. And that's what I was thinking was the truth. I just wanted to make sure that that was true.
And remember, a booster organization, they're their own 501c3,
Right.
different bank account,
Right.
so.
And then also, I think if you wouldn't mind sharing your position kind of on busing and some of the positives by not providing busing for the high school.
You just
Or
want
positives and
my straight
negatives.
opinion on busing?
However, yes, that would be great.
So I came from a district that didn't bus, just for football. And like I said, there's no apples to apples in sports, right? I think of our basketball programs who, on a night, if they're going to play at Rocky, they have a 4:30 start time, load the bus between 3:15 and 3:30 at the latest. Our varsity team is now, and if you've ever been to a high school basketball game, no game starts at 7:30. They're starting at 8:15, okay? So what are our varsity kids doing from 3:30 till they warm up? They're sitting in a gym, our coaches are trying to find a place to have a pregame meal, they're trying to do homework. But now, in this current system, now our varsity kids can actually go home after school, get some homework done, get a good dinner in them, report to the gym when they're supposed to get there. Yes, I totally understand the safety component, I do. And it only, so I see both perspectives, but, I mean, if you want to see safety, see the way our kids leave the parking lot. 3 to a cab, 8 to the bed of a truck, you know? So, I mean, I want what's best for our kids. I'm in the job of kids and coaches. And if we're not transporting a kid who doesn't have to sit around for 4.5 hours, then I'm in favor of it. But I want what our coaches want. I represent our coaches. What they want is what I will echo.
And do you think that's what they want?
Yes.
Okay, so I just think that's news to a lot of people. So I think normally we've seen like the fact that we're not paying for busing as a negative, but I think it's a good thing to see some of the positives that are in that as well. For coaches and for the athletes themselves. Yeah.
I have a question too also. I think this is for Almira or anybody else that can help me. So our budget that takes care of stipends and transportation is about $337,000, give or take.
On average, yes.
Right. And right now, because that is not in the levy, that is taken out of our general fund, correct? And that is what these fees will pay for. But not all these fees will pay for that $337,000, but it will make a knockoff for it.
Correct. And
the levy, the supplemental levy, we're kind of talking about the future,
Right.
25-26 school year.
Right.
Already preparing because of the timelines.
Right.
This school year, 24-25, the year that we're in, we already budgeted to pay for that. I mean, I will use accounting terms, deficit.
Okay.
Because that's what we have been doing.
So that
yeah.
it is in the budget?
It is budget, it is in the budget to pay.
And then
yes.
the other question I have, which I think is kind of an important one to say, is if the levy were to pass and kindergarten is gonna be taken out of the levy, along with the curriculum and our technology, that frees up some money from our general fund, that even though athletic fees are not on the levy, that could be paid through the general fund depending on what the board decides to do with that.
Correct, because what we do, unfortunately, I wish we could do that, but that's not how it works. We just don't get money from the state, you know, $10,000 is for your books, $50,000 for
Right.
curriculum, this is for special education. They give us one lump sum amount based on attendance, salary-based apportionment, and then we put it all in one bucket, you know, and then based on the needs assessment, the administration decides this is how much we want to spend for personnel, this is how much we want to spend for supplies. So yes, supplemental levy will help to free up some money so we could continue using discretionary funds
So it's important.
to pay for that.
So that is an
yes.
important thing.
Mhm.
And the other thing I think is really important that even though education is so different, it's not like a business with a line item like you're saying, here's the line item for this. It's here's your money and what's important for you. And sometimes, I'll just give an example, we may not have the money for something, for let's say we needed to get more helmets and it wasn't in the budget. Then as educators, you go out and say, can I get a grant to pay for safety and we can get those in there, you know, the football helmets. So it's not something every year that you're gonna find this line item, this line item, or this line item. It's what do we want as a community, and then what is important that we take out. Is that kind of, okay. So I just kind of like to state that also. All right, any other questions or comments?
I wanted to clarify something to make sure that when Luke said that, you know, one of the things that talked about holding a diploma, we don't hold a diploma, you know, from a kid yet. We track them down, but we haven't held a diploma. But just to be clear, that's doesn't get out there that we're holding. We haven't done that yet. Try to track the kids down first.
Give back the
So they
helmet.
go to their house at night. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, and it's really probably tough to find somebody enough to pay for a helmet. They're not inexpensive by any means.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm going to be doing this right. We already had a motion that passed last time, and I want to read that and then make sure that you realize that we have another motion on the floor with a first and a second. So the reason I'm reading this is it was Superintendent Bechtel and Mr. Graves proposed to raise in athletic fees and ASB cards. Trustee Grant motion to raise fees for fall sports by 5%, making the high school $105 per activity and middle school $52.50 per activity. And another increase for winter sports, increasing high school to $150, middle school to $75, the time to advertise. Do public comment approved. Trustee Bruce amended the motion to add the need of a discussion to add player fees along with the activities fee. Trustee Lowe seconded the motion, discussion followed, the vote was held, and the motion passed. So we already have on the books the 150 and 75 because that motion passed 3-2. So we are making a motion, and I want to make sure we're doing it correctly. JD, you're making a motion that we keep the current fee, $105, $52.50. I seconded that. All right, so are we ready to vote, or is there any other discussion? All right, Kirsty?
Aye.
Aye.
Michael? JD?
Aye.
Hillary? And I for me, so. All right. So the next thing we're looking at is to consider the emergency levies, Superintendent Becketel and CFO Feather.
It's really gonna be.
It's gonna be CFO Feather. Got it.
So good news here, the district is eligible for emergency levy. The kind of the little background for emergency levy. The district can only be eligible for emergency levy if we could take a snapshot of one day. We have to be consistent. Usually we take the 5th day of the school, and we have to compare not the enrollment, the attendance of that day to the attendance that was reported to the state a year ago. So, and there is a form, so good thing we do not have to be the one who determine the amount. There is a form on the state's website where they have guidance, and the form will have to be submitted to the state and to the counties as well. And I did troubleshoot everything with the counties a week ahead of time, like, could you please double check everything? Could you double check our O2 and everything? If you have any concerns, let us know right now. It's not, if you scroll down, so that's the amount, and this says, and when, if you could click on 2425 ADA tab. So really, so we actually have 60 more students when we took the snapshot, but the attendance is better.
Oh.
So this is the first time in my experience where attendance is actually in our favor, you know? So I'm like, usually nobody likes the formula based on attendance, but this time, because the attendance was better just by 0.32%, they kind of gave us an equivalent of 75 students, because the attendance that day was just like little tiny percentage makes a difference. And if we go back to, so that generated $554,000. And also, and it's a public information, if you click, if you click on the IC reporting, we kind of have all the reports from the state, and if you scroll down, all the way down, we're not gonna go through that, but, you know, all the backup information is there because it's required. They don't just take our word for it, they would like to see some backup. So, I did check with counties, it's not gonna affect our waterfall money. So, you know, it's not because specifically the word emergency levy is not listed in Idaho code. It's supplemental levy, it's planned facility levy, so we would, if you choose to vote for it, we will get it in addition to the waterfall money. So if we could go back to the slide. So, and just to ask you that question, I had to revise the budget, and I had to publish it, and we had to pay for publishing to the newspaper. And because just to ask the question, we have to publish it ahead of time. And I took it as a good opportunity, since we already spent money for publishing, it would be a good opportunity to revise the budget to reflect all the final federal allocations. Something that I would have had to do in October or November anyway, so might as well do it right now to save money on publishing, mostly because the state does not provide, the state does not finalize federal allocations until the end of September. And this is where all districts usually revise the budget to reflect final allocations, because the preliminary budgets, I think this is what our allocation is gonna be based on census data. In October or November, we put the actual allocations, which are now available. And also, there's some great news. We received, you know, Stewart applied for a huge grant and received it. It's almost $1 million. That's significant enough to revise the budget immediately, so they have the spending authority and can start using the funds.
Elmira, would you just make sure too that they understand that for that land?
Agricultural lab grant can only be used for that purpose. There's like specifically agreement grant. These are the only things that you could do. But since the amount is significant, it has to be in Skylar in a budget for his team to start spending funds. And also with some other funds, usually when I propose the preliminary budget, I do not put any carryovers, including the technology, because it has to be confirmed by the auditors before we let, our department spend the carryovers from the prior year. So this is where the revised budget kicks in, and I did check with the auditors, could you please confirm my amounts, and they did. So, felt pretty comfortable putting the carryovers, for college and technical career and education, for the technology funds that have to be tracked separate, for the, bond funds, the reminder, we have to confirm the carryover because some of the things that we thought we would have to pay our invoices in June, but the work was actually done the first week of July, so of course everything moves to the next fiscal year. So just the formalities. For the general fund, the fund balance doesn't change. The only thing that changes, we're proposing the revenue amount of $524,000. And then I'm putting it in a contingency as an expense because it's to be determined, by the administration of what the funds would be used for. And like Assistant Superintendent Graves mentioned, some of it has already been spent because when our enrollment goes up, our formula triggers more teachers, and it's negotiated through the master agreement, and we have to hire more teachers. So right now, if we don't have levy, just come out of this contingency and waiting until the state catches up with their funding. So some of it is already gone, but there could be some, because the amount is pretty good, so there could be some available funds to cover other expenses. But if we put it in a contingency, then the administration, that's kind of the flexibility, the amount could be transferred in between expenses, whether it's, personnel expense or supplies or curriculum or any other expenses. So just because it's in and out, the fund balance doesn't change. So when I submit it to the state, they'll probably ask me, why did you send it to us? Because your numbers look the same. And I'll tell them, oh, no. You see, we are applying for emergency levy, and we're putting it in a contingency fund. So before I move to other funds, do you have any questions or concerns?
I do have some questions, if anybody else, just that I've heard through the community. This is not understanding the emergency levy is just a one-time fee, 1 year.
Yes.
The regular levy is for the next 2 years, so it's will cover completely different years, correct?
Yes, thank you.
And I want to make sure that the community understands that.
So this is just a one-time amount for this year. This is why I filed the extension. I have time until Friday to certify the levy for this 24-25 school year. The year where currently the initial plan is to have nearly zero tax rate. So that's gonna be, so that will change the tax rate, and I'll talk in terms of 100,000 per each $100,000 of taxable value. It's gonna be an estimated $10.
Correct.
So the tax rate is
and then that goes away.
And that goes away.
If the other levy passes, then that would be
The
different.
new levy kicks in. It's not in addition to supplemental levy.
That's what I want to make sure the
It's only
community
for
knows, that
this.
we're not getting two levies the same year. I think that's
No.
important to know.
This is for this year, 24, and that's one of the reasons why we have to revise the budget.
Yeah.
Because it was not initially included. So, now the next one, oh, sorry, that's just the same kind of showing money in, money out, because revenue and expense, and there is no change. And then, so this one, it's all good news. The recommendation is to revise the budget because we need to increase the budget. For example, and here's the note here, it's ag grant. Then our Kuna Middle School received the Title 1A School Improvement Grant after the fact, and other miscellaneous adjustments, special education grant, and title grant allocations. Now that we have final ones, some of them are $5,000 more, some of them are $10,000 more, and they all add up. And in terms of expenses, when you budget the revenue, you have to tell the state what you're gonna do with this. And overall, so that amount is different. So what I did, I highlighted the amounts that are different from the initial budget. So pretty much the same. They're not necessarily federal grants, but they're the grants that could come from the state or other state agencies. For example, Office of Drug Policy, at the last minute after the fact, they agreed to, give us additional funds for SRO officers. Or the state allowed us to continue using vape sensor grants because it was not realistic to install it all in June. So all districts needed more time, so they allowed us the carryover. Now we put it in revenues as well. And also, I do meet with Ludi from pre-K, and we kind of reconciling all this miscellaneous grants, everything has been paid, all bills have been paid, how much do you have left, so we could carry over into the next year. So it's just the carryover fund balances, if you will, so we do have to reflect those. And then if we go to the next slide, and of course we have to adjust the expenses, and I also highlighted in red the changes, what's different. And as you can see, as I was talking, so different expenses, and this one is probably going to be the most significant because sometimes people will just see that difference, almost $2.5 million, and the initial reaction, well, you have extra $2.5 million. It's not really extra. As you can see, it's the carryover. Each amount has its own purpose. The carryover for the vape sensor grant, music grant carryover, because certain instruments were delivered in July, so the invoices are going to be paid in July. So the carryover has to happen. Again, Ludi's grant carryover. And this is, every time when superintendent assistant Reddy, sorry, I almost forgot the last name, he proposes those very expensive purchases. To give me an example,
Touch panel TVs,
yes.
speaker clocks,
Yes.
apps.
The state only gives us $500,000 a year. Where do this money come from? So every time when we say it's coming from the technology fund balance, so this is what it is. So we have to confirm it with the auditors. Right now it's sitting there as an expense, but it doesn't mean Jason is gonna spend it all in 1 year. It's just little chunks. And the reason we have this amount because we were able to save during and utilize ESSER funds instead. So this is what is really helping us right now with certain expenses. And of course, the new ag grant and the calculated CTE carryover. So with all of this, this is what we're gonna send to the state so we could upload it to Skyward system so people could actually use the funds. Because if we don't, then their budget is gonna show zero and they will not be able to use the funds. So the next slide is, I'm sure there could be, the list could go on what motions could be, but the only two I could think of. We do have to revise the budget to reflect federal allocations regardless, and the motion could be to approve the revised budget as presented, including emergency levy, or motion could be to approve the revised budget without emergency levy, because the federal allocations have to be reflected in the budget.
Thank you
Mhm.
for all your hard work. I make a motion that we approve the revised budget as presented, including the emergency levy in the amount of $554,451.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do you have any discussion?
I do have a question. Just because I've never been part of an emergency levy, I just have a few questions about what it specifically goes to pay for and how it works. But so the state will reimburse us the same for students no matter what, right? So we have maybe 60 extra students or whatever it is this year, and we're getting the same amount of money per student, whether they were here last year or not. So I'm just wondering specifically what would emergency levy money be utilized for? Because I know we're spending it now to pay the additional teachers, but we will be reimbursed for those funds?
So and these are the questions that we asked ourselves as well. So the state funds us for attendance, right? But it does not mean the state would give us $554,000, right? They will say, okay, their attendance, maybe 75 kids more, how many units will those kids generate? And then it's gonna be amount per unit. And I could actually estimate on what the state will potentially give us in February. So their first payment for this year, so right now we're pretty much functioning on our fund balance. Their first significant payment is gonna be in February. And probably not $554,000. I would say just rough amounts, maybe $100,000, but not 500. So emergency levy has nothing to do with state funding. It's the opportunity from counties to say, what if we didn't have fund balance? You know, who would pay for those extra teachers that we hire? Like small districts, they do not have fund balance. So this is the emergency levies, the opportunity to catch up before things partially come back in the future.
That makes sense.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, we have a first, we have a second. Hillary, I'm gonna start with you.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I just want to, I feel like it's super important because we really want the next levy to pass. We need that money, and I just want to say, like, in order to be really clear, that this money, like Kim said, would be for completely different things and to fund completely different things. The levy that we're going to be asking for on the ballot in November funds very specific things, and if it doesn't pass, then those, we'll have to deal with that, of course, then. So some feedback I've gotten, and I just feel like the reason I want to vote for this levy is because it's not, you know, some people say we voted no, and now they'll force us to pay anyway. But this is a completely different budget with different money, and I just want to make that clear for people. I know lots of people watch these and get their information this way. And so reiterating what Kim said, that this is money for a different thing, for different purposes, and the next levy is just as important now as it would have been without this levy. That's just my thought. Okay, so I can vote now if you want.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Kirsty?
Aye.
And I for me. Thank you very much for your time. All right, moving right along. We're at 305, Superintendent Appointment, Authority Evaluation, so we're looking at that.
This is when everyone leaves.
I know, it's like they all leave. I don't know what it is about you, but they're all leaving.
I promise there's only four, and this was not my committee's fault. This was 100% Chair Nixon and Trustee Bruce's fault. They asked for these policies, and actually, you guys got up last week, so I should have you guys stand and present. No, so 305.
You're doing good, go for it.
Go for it. 305 is a brand new policy. It's a brand new policy to us. It's just on the superintendent evaluation. However, when we were looking at the four policies that we saw in regards to superintendent, the authority and appointment was a little bit repeated, and I'm not trying to steal. I don't even know how to, I almost said trustee Jill. Not trying to say I write policy at all, but we went ahead and put the appointment and the authority into this policy as well. But this is that, remember when we brought to you guys 262 and 262.1 and let you discuss. So this is just our version of the first try at it, and then we'll bring it back to you with all the corrections that you guys found that I made.
I think I already discussed with Secretary, our Board Secretary, all those little mistakes, so don't worry about them. She's gonna correct them, all the little.
We always change the footer and the header at the end. So
yeah.
the footer was
And just
very
to,
old.
I was to say, just let people know, since we're looking for a superintendent, we really didn't have a policy that went through an evaluation or a time frame of when we as a board would do things. And Kirsty and I took a look at trying to make it as easy, I guess is what I want to say, and also
Very transparent.
not very transparent, but not so much educational terms. We wanted it to be so that any board member could kind of read that and pick up. And we thought it was important with what we're doing now as superintendent to make those changes because they hadn't been made for a long time. And so that's what the result of this is our input into that. So, anyway, so I did have, is it on this one? Yes, I believe it was going over I think it's on, where is it?
Page 3.
Yeah, page 3.
Where it talked about,
Yes. So when we go to
we
do.
wanted that to be you guys' discussion. How many
Yeah.
ratings did you want?
So that you guys know that when we go to do an evaluation on a superintendent, along with that time frame, we'll be looking at these things to use. And it's unsatisfactory, I'm sorry, my glasses are, my eyes are terrible. Unsatisfactory, what's the next one? Developing.
Do you want me to read the
Proficient,
definitions, or do you guys?
and
Accomplished.
accomplished, thank you,
And
because I can't see it.
distinguished.
And distinguished. So I want to talk about the distinguished. The distinguished states that they should be able to write a book, because they're so good at what they do. And I just think that that's a little too much that we're asking for superintendents. So I'm asking that we take a look at that. Yeah. Did you want to write a book for us, please, Kim? I don't know if I like that in there, and was wondering if we as a board would like to take that out.
Do you want me to read the whole definition?
You can,
Fully accomplished and a qualified expert in a specific area, someone who could write books, mentor, and teach others in the area, is a recognized leader in the region and state in the area.
and I think what I want to know is that they're a mentor and that they're recognized in the state, throughout the state, and what they want. Not that they could write a book. However, that's great if they just choose to do that. But so I'd like that language changed. But I
Who
want to
could
bring
write a
that up.
book, stricken?
Yeah.
Kelly Chambers taking notes.
I got
Someone who
it. Do you got it?
Yep.
Good
I-
mentor and teach others.
Yeah, I like that part, and that they're distinguished throughout the state.
Yeah.
And that to me is an important piece, but I didn't care for the book part, so I kind of wanted that taken out. I don't know how you guys feel, or if there's anything else, questions that you have, or what your feelings are.
I don't have any other changes.
You have any other changes? Okay.
I move that we adopt the first reading of the policy 305 superintendent appointment, authority, and evaluation.
Second.
Do we need to state that we're taking out the book?
With that correction.
With that
And
correction?
I think Kelly already.
Okay.
So I'll bring this back as a second read for you guys with that correction.
Thank you with that correction. All right, we'll start with you, Hillary, again.
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
Michael? Kirsty? And I for me.
Next policy is policy 310. It used to house the superintendent evaluation. And then there were some updates that we had to do by law with part 1 and part 2 of the evaluation. So that, all of the superintendent was stricken, and then that updated the part where instead of it's a straight 67% and 33%, now it says most and part, I think, of the words.
Yeah.
They got rid of the percentages.
Right.
And this would be an amendment.
I think it made
Also,
it
yeah.
friendlier by doing that. So, yeah.
So this policy houses your principals, your vice principals, and then your district staff that are not superintendent.
Exactly.
Not your teacher evaluations.
No, this is just for the administrators and done by the superintendent. And I think I did have a thing about that again, that you made, instead of, what was it? I can't remember, had to say it, or superintendent, it was, I changed.
Designee.
Yeah,
Instead of designee, it's or designee.
Thank you, I knew there was something. All right, any other discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt policy number 310 for the first reading.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we'll start with you, Kirsty, this time.
Aye.
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 Aye for me. I thought we already did the discussion, so I didn't ask. All right, so now removing the following policies.
It says 304, superintendent appointment, we added that to 305, and superintendent authority, we added that into 305.
Okay,
I'll make a motion that we remove the following policies, 304 and 306.
do I have a
Second.
Any discussion? Start with you, Kirsty.
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
Hillary?
Aye.
Aye for me. Wow, we're on the good of the order. Unbelievable. Could I just say that for a second? All right, here we go. I ISBA Region 3 meeting is September 18th at the West Ada School District. I really feel this is an important meeting. I plan on being there. It's from 5:30 to 7:30. And what it is they go over proposals that the ISBA will be making during the legislative sessions that will affect us as a school board and as districts. So I think it's important to go to and to see what they want to do. If you're not able to go, we do bring that back to a meeting and discuss it here also. But I sure would like someone to go with me. Anyway, so that's that. Also, Kuna High School homecoming football game, September 27th at 7 p.m. Woo-hoo! ISBA annual convention, November 6th through 8th. Early registration and September 30th. And I would like to attend. Is there anybody else that would like to attend so that we can get that early bird registration? Yeah, I'll let you all look.
I won't be able to attend.
Okay, that's your busy time, isn't it? Kind of though?
It's just past it, but
Okay.
yeah, I won't be able to.
Okay. On vacation? She's like, I know how they do it.
A motion that we adjourn.
Well, there's one more thing, but we will. One more good for the order. The Kuna Education Foundation, which is, it's not on your thing.
6 through 8, it's all day, till like 8 to 8 o'clock in the morning.
It's from 8 to about, not always 8 o'clock tonight.
Not at all,
No,
not every day.
no, it's
but
just-
They have a dinner and they have.
Yeah. They sometimes have a dinner, sometimes they don't. You don't have to stay for the whole thing. One more thing that is not on your good of the order is the Kuna Education Foundation is gonna be having a fundraiser. This foundation helps our teachers with books and things that they can't afford on their own. And so they will come to the foundation to ask for a grant. We need to raise money for this because we're running a little low. So we have come up with the idea of auctioning off baskets, and each school will be presenting a basket for us to auction starting October 6th. I just want you to be aware of that so that maybe you'd like to auction, be part of the auction, or anybody out that's listening, know that that's coming to your school soon.
Can you donate items to the basket?
I think that would be awesome. What they're doing is, they're asking each school to come up with a theme, and then teachers are gonna donate to that theme to make a big basket. So, yeah, and I think September 23rd we'll be knowing the themes, correct? Yep. Okay.
Is Jenny McGregor in charge of that Kuna Education Foundation?
Jenny Greger is on the board, yes.
Okay, so if we were donating, we would contact her?
You can contact her, or you can contact me, because I'm on the board too, that's why I kind of put it there. Anyway, yeah, or also Taylor Sisson is on the board, she's the chairman of it.
Okay.
All right, now, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I already have it on the floor and she seconded it.
Oh, so we're ready to go, all right, let's go. Kirsty?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Aye.
And I for me, so thank you, and we are adjourned.